Amanda! Amanda! A luta contínua.
Please have a seat.
Amanda!
Thank you. Thank you. Just pass quietly and have your seat, please. As we commence this very important press conference. Before we read out to you a prepared text aimed at addressing a very important and pertinent national issue, I'd like to ask all citizens around this conference table, at your places of work, the countries, I'd like to ask all of you to kindly rise to your feet. I'll observe a moment of silence in the passing of some of our compatriots of recent. Thank you. Please have your seats. I'd like to emphasize that the CDC is grieved by any loss of life. We are a sensitive political institution that reflects the collective interests of the Liberian people and those that reside within our borders, including those that are passing through our borders. All human lives are available to us, irrespective of status or creed, irrespective of sex or religion or tribe or ethnicity. Every human life is important to us. And we are grieved by the passing of some of our compatriots, as announced of recent times by different media outlets. That's why we have set up a special committee to reach out to the families of the deceased, to express our deepest condolences and sympathy, and to work to console members of the bereaved families at whatever level that is possible. We have appointed parties, Gilead and Agelo, with the Minopizo Sedita as chair of that committee, co-chaired by the chairperson of the Women League. We've also appointed a youth chair on that committee. Secretary General Rojanga Cole is also on that committee. They will reach out to members of the bereaved families to express how grieved we are as a political institution in the passing of our compatriots, and to pray for God's consolation upon the families, and to offer our assistance in whatever way possible, because we see Liberia as a hut, a singular hut, and all of us are residents of that hut. Whatever affects one member affects the other. So if someone is lost, irrespective of which side the person stood, we are concerned. When it comes to human life, we don't see political party. We see value that runs beyond tribe, ethnicity, religion, creed, sex, etc. Having said that, we want to commend the wisdom of the President, His Excellency George Manawia, to have announced the formation of a committee with international dimension to investigate the deaths of some of our brothers and sisters, that will establish the fights, which will be clearly put out to the public, because we are especially interested in the inclusion or the invitation that has been extended to the United States Embassy to help support or to form part of the investigative mechanism. That's important, because sometimes they say the prophet is not respecting his own home. So that precludes or prevents any perception that the investigative process, as it's going to be launched, is prejudiced. So the international dimension added by the President's wisdom is very commendable, because we have absolute confidence in the integrity of our friends, our traditional or stepfather called Uncle Sam, in their capacity, of course, to help us. We also have confidence in our local law enforcement practitioners and whomever that has been added on our investigative team to do their work. So the inclusion of the United States Embassy is a good thing that we commend, and the President continue to show wisdom in handling national matters in a way that it will keep our country stable and ensure lives are protected. The Mighty Coalition for Democratic Change frowns on the ongoing melee between the Liberia Telecommunications Authority and mobile network operators, which is Orange and Lone Star, and calls for a speedy resolution in the matter. We call on the LTA and GSM companies to resolve all disagreements in the soonest possible time to provide relief for Liberians. The leadership of the Coalition for Democratic Change decries the breakdown of dispute resolution mechanism between the LTA and GSM companies, noting that it is this breakdown that led to litigation, culminating in the recent Supreme Court ruling favoring the government of Liberia. We believe, despite this ruling, both sides should return to the dispute resolution mechanism enshrined in the Act establishing the LTA or to other suitable frameworks that place the Supreme Court ruling in its proper context. The CDC warns the GSM companies to refrain from any form of political machination or collusion, which is a crime of economic sabotage that indirectly plays the ordinary people against our own government. While we do not aim to dwell on details of recent pronouncements by GSM companies, the recent price changes announced by both companies have elements of collusion and unlawful profiteering, which is punishable under the laws of the Republic of Liberia. We remind the GSM companies that it is always the interest of the government of Liberia to protect businesses and investments, but to do so in a way that enhances the interest of the Liberian people. The CDC reminds Liberians that LTA's policy of floor pricing was intended to protect Lone Star Cell MTN from an aggressive price race to the bottom that was being waged by Orange Liberia. A cutthroat competition that would have led to Lone Star Cell going out of business. The government worked to protect Lone Star in order to provide a level playing field and save hundreds of Liberian jobs that would have been redundant by Lone Star Cell MTN. Sadly, today it is the very Lone Star Cell that is acting in a manner contrary to the interests of the Liberian people, thereby ignoring the positive intervention of the government of Liberia to save them from potential bankruptcy. CDC also wants the LTA to exercise care and prudence when announcing policies that have implications on our people and that may pose risk to the reputation of the government of Liberia, which is pro-poor to its core. Lest we forget, it was this government that declared free tuition at public universities. This is the same government currently paying WASS fees for high school students. It is this government that raised the income of more than 15,000 government employees, some of whom were making as low as $45 per month under the United Party-led government. We encourage the LTA to reflect these proposed attributes in its policy formulation processes moving forward, which will benefit the ordinary Liberian people that we've always defended and will always protect. In conclusion, the Mighty Coalition for Democratic Change calls on all citizens, partisans, and sympathizers to remain calm as President George Weah has taken seize of the surcharge disagreements between the Liberia Telecommunications Authority and GSM companies. The party notes that frontal discussions surrounding the legal and financial ramifications of the surcharges are ongoing, and we assure the Liberian people that we return to status quo in the pricing of data and calls in the shortest possible time. Lastly, the National Executive Committee of the Coalition for Democratic Change calls on partisans involved in planned protest actions to cut off such plans in the interests of national peace and stability. In seeking to address grievances, the party encourages its members to utilize the existing organizational or judicial platforms to deal with pertinent governance issues, ruling out protests as a means to an end, especially at this time. Henceforth, the CDC calls on all members and sympathizers to at all times remain peaceful and law-abiding throughout this campaign and beyond. Thank you very much. We will now submit for the press and await questions that may arise out of this press briefing that need our response. Thank you.
Amanda. 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 Thank you. That was the voice of the chairman of the tripartite session of our party on speakers providing an official position on behalf of the Mighty Coalition for Democratic Change. So we'll now move to the question aspect, and we'd like to appeal to you to restrict your questions on the basis of the nature of the press conference. So we'll take about four questions. So please, as we call you, recognize you, call your name, and tell us which institution you report from. Thank you ever so much. You will take the fellow.
Okay. Augustine Sign, I report for Truth FM. Chairman Molo, I listened to you. You sound disappointed in Lone Star Cell MTM. If I may ask, were there any prior discussions that you had with Lone Star Cell MTM prior to the placement of surcharges on the calls?
Last question. Let's just take the 4 questions.
Okay. Let's proceed.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Peter Boyuga. I'm a multimedia journalist. According to you, the president has taken seize of the ongoing visa matter. Are there any specific time frame?
Third
question. Yes.
My name is Andrew Johnson, and I report for OKFM. The CDC, like any other political party, don't have the jurisdiction over the regulation of GSM companies. And the LTA ordered them to replace or bring back whatever they took away in 24 hours, and it was not done. What made you believe that you saying as a CDC will regulate them to do what you as a party want them to do? And if it is so, or will be, when should the people expect that to happen?
Last question.
Last question. Yeah.
My name is Antoinette and I report for MCCTV. Chairman, what about trying to tell us that Blue LTA is behind whatever things that are happening as it relates to the data surgeons in the country?
Thank you. So let's take the question first. In the first place, the Lone Star Cell GSM company and the Orange Liberia GSM company are two data service providers that are responsible to sell data to subscribers. And so if there is, and mind you that that process is not operating in a vacuum. There is a legislation or there are statutes that govern how data may be transmitted business-wise to our customers or the subscribers. And if there is going to be a change in the data service plan, that change has to commensurate with regulations laid down by law, of course, which is supervised by the Telecommunications Authority. So in the event where that process is violated, and placing burden on customers and subscribers who are our partisans and citizens, it is our responsibility to make intervention to call for a speedy consideration of a decision that operates outside statute and laws. And so to come back to your question, of course, Lone Star Cell and Orange Liberia are responsible for the increase in the price in data pricing. And what is more troubling is the Liberia Telecommunications Authority is in disagreement with the amendment of pricing. In fact, there was a statement released giving a specific time framework ultimatum for these communication companies to restitute lost data that may have been taken from consumers and customers, quote unquote, arbitrarily or illegally. That has not been done. So we are intervening on the side of the people, the Liberian people. We are not shareholders of Lone Star on Orange. We are shareholders of the right of the Liberian people. We are shareholders of the people's interest. So the situation with Orange Liberia and Lone Star Cell, of course, in the data pricing belief, in our view, is unwarranted in reference to the LTA regulation, which was announced and ultimately given them to return the status quo ante. So our interest is the two companies should return to status quo ante. How do they do that? We bring them into your question. There was a process, there was a negotiation process that was stalled or broke down. How it broke down, we don't have the details, but it is that breakdown of negotiation that led to a litigation at the Supreme Court, which of course came out favorable to the government of Liberia. So we would like to see both parties, the LTA and communication companies operating within our borders, to return to that bargaining table and to sort out whatever discrepancies that may exist leading to the litigation. Even though the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the government, but we are also interested in ensuring that the rights of mobile GSM subscribers, GSM companies are protected. We also want to see Lone Star Cell doing business here, just as we want to see Orange Liberia doing business here. But the interest of the people encompasses the interest of private entities. So the way the middle ground has to be that the LTA and GSM companies should return to the bargaining table. Where they were before the Supreme Court ruling should be returned to, so that whatever problems that have existed leading to the people being punished by the increasing data charges by the two companies, those things should be resolved so that we go to status quo ante. But while we do that, these companies have to return to status quo ante. That is, if I don't know the different price structure, so I don't want to be specific. Whatever that price structure was before the increase, they should return to that price structure. I think accommodating or respecting the regulation or the ultimatum issued by the LTA is important moving forward, because that will relieve the burden of our people to allow them to do business, to allow them to make calls without experiencing financial difficulties as it is right now. But under the circumstances, the process is deplorable and we don't support it. We want to see a return of data companies to status quo ante. The people's credits, the people's data should be returned to their phones in twofold, just as LTA had ruled and automated that they do that. And so no company in Liberia, in the private sector or even in the public sector, operates in a vacuum. There are laws. The laws have to be respected. And I think Lone Star Cell Liberia should also be in that position, just as Orange Liberia, to respect our laws and respect the rights of subscribers. The people cannot be punished for misunderstanding between LTA and GSM company. The people should not be the bearers of the greatest responsibility or the financial burden. So that financial burden placed on the people should be lifted. The data that was taken from every subscriber mobile phone should be restored so that the people can experience communication without the burden they are going through now as mobile cell or the data subscribers. So that's where we stand as a political party. And to speak to your question, CDC is the party in power. We are a democratic institution that was supported overwhelmingly by the Liberian people to the presidency. If you are a mobile cell company that don't take seriously recommendations from the party that is intended to balance or to create equilibrium in the business sector, then I don't know who else you were listening to, because we are a governing architecture that is taken very seriously by major stakeholders. And we are simply calling for a return to the status quo ante. So I think it's going to be listened to. I think in the next few days, the LTA and the GSM companies will continue to engage. I think in the next few days, there will be some positive development that will ease the burden on our people. So I don't take it like they wouldn't respect the party's view on this issue, which is very substantial and very important to resolving the melee between the two different institutions. Now, besides that, as stressed in the press statement, the LTA also has to be very careful. When you are crafting policies, the LTA is not an entity in a vacuum. LTA is a part of the governance architecture. It's a part of the people's mandate. They need to learn and follow the pattern of the Liberian president, essentially George Weah, who remains pro-po to the end. This is a pro-po party that takes policies that are pro-po driven. So it is important to stress every agency of government that institutionalizes policies. Those policies must always commensurate with the agenda of the party which is represented by the president. You cannot draw policies that is seen as anti-people. So in formulating those policies as spelled out in the press statement, the LTA must always be cognizant of the need to instill in their policy mechanisms the interest of the Liberian people. We are here first and foremost to ensure the Liberian people are served, that their interest is maximally protected. We are here to maximize the collective potential of the public. That's what we're here. So if any governing institution will deviate from that, then they have the party to contend with. So we think that So we think LTA, now have they done something wrong yet? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying moving forward, they've got to be protective of the governing manifesto of the people entrusted to our charge. Now, GSM companies, as a last statement on this issue, cannot also operate in a vacuum. There are laws in this country. Now, we were very clear that the actions of some companies will indicate collusion. Collusion, demonstrated, means a process where you work in unity with opposition groupings to undermine the democratic process. The interest of the people is tied to national security because it is the people that get power. Power is inherent in the people. So when you try to tamper with the interest of millions of people, then you are trying to push your country on the precipice of national security collapse. We do not want that. This data process is a very significant issue that should warrant the urgent attention of these GSM companies. The people money must be restored to their phone because their monies were taken.
Viva, viva, CDC, viva, viva!
And so we are thankful that the president has taken seize of the matter, meaning he himself has intervened. Our confidence does not lie in Orange Liberia intervention or Lone Star Cell intervention. Our confidence rests squarely on the intervention of the president to ensure this issue is resolved in a timely and immediate fashion. So we are very confident that now that Liberia's first and only pro-poor president has intervened, this issue now is going to be resolved. Our advice is to data companies, return to the arrangement that broke down, which led to a Supreme Court ruling. Go to that arrangement, go to the table, LTA, go back to the table, resolve the issue. But we are confident, and that's why we're having this press conference, because the man that matters, the man that is the biggest voice, the man that has the biggest muscle, the man that is strongest for the poor people has intervened. And it's that intervention now that gives us the guarantee that it's going to